Vikings versus Giants.
Chargers versus Raiders. Here we
Boom.
are, week one. I can't believe we made it, Brandon. This is awesome. It feels like Christmas Day. It feels like we've had a few Christmases in the last week with the fantasy
Yep.
drafts going on as well. This is great. And week one, tons of storylines. And before we get into that, thank you for joining us in another episode of the BuiBros Football Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Quinn Bowie, and I cheer, of course, for the LA Chargers. And across from me, my brother Brandon.
And I cheer for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, so today, like you said, we're going to be getting into matchups, looking at who the Vikings are playing, which is the Giants, looking at who the Chargers are playing, which is the Raiders. And we'll kind of do a little very unbiased, stat-based discussion
100%.
here.
Yes, we are using the guidance of PFF in this, which will help determine the win-loss category here between these two games. Let's start with the Chargers and the Raiders. All right, Brandon, why don't you wave your little techie wand, bring it up here. What we're doing here to help kind of quantify it all, we're going head-to-head matchups here, all right? So we're going to do an advantage or a disadvantage per category. We're having QB versus QB, wide receiver versus their corner group, so on and so forth. You can see down there, and then we're going to have a tally that'll help guide why we believe, of course, the Chargers and the Vikings are going to win in week one. So let's get to it. We'll start off with the QB position. Not going to spend a lot of time here. It's Justin Herbert versus Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew recently announced as the starter. Yeah, listen, he's a journeyman at this point. Fantastic mustache, only good play, and with the Raiders surrounding cast, he doesn't have a lot of help in that regard. Of course, Devontae Adams and so on and so forth. We'll get to these other position groups, but Justin Herbert takes the cake here, and it goes Chargers 1, Raiders 0. Next up, we have the wide receiver group. Now, this is tough. When looking at our wide receivers, we have Josh Palmer, who has the most experience out of that group with Justin Herbert. DJ Chark, injured at this point, not sure if he's going to play. And then we have rookies. We have Ladd McConkey there. So not a lot of experience with the quarterback, but where we have one of the best on the planet, as Jim Harbaugh says, and of course, if you watch this channel, in Harbaugh we trust. Best quarterbacks on the planet, he elevates his players. Now going up against, you've got Nate Hobbs over there. PFF grade last year is 69. You've got Jack Jones, former Patriots cornerback there. Last year, 71.6. Well, against Palmer, 67.6. It's a little bit of an even matchup here. The Raiders have been exploited in the secondary in the past, but that's when you have some of those elite wide receivers. I don't know if the Chargers have what it takes to go against. Just kidding. Of course we do. It's Joshua Palmer with Justin Herbert. It's Ladd McConkey coming out of Georgia. We have the guys going in there. I pre-put it in there. And we're going to go wide receiver advantage, all right, for the Chargers against that lowly secondary in the Raiders' backfield. Then we go, of course, to the running backs.
Hold on. I need to say that this was supposed to just judge wide receivers, not quarterbacks somehow. You can't add Justin Herbert in there and say the wide receivers are better because of him.
You absolutely can.
The wide receiver room for the Chargers has to be in the bottom 3.
I don't know about that. We really have to look. It's not the bottom 3, okay? It's definitely not the bottom 3.
Bottom 5. And you're saying that the Raiders would be worse than that in the cornerback room?
Potentially. Absolutely. Potentially, absolutely. They've been thrown on for God knows how long. All right, as long as I can remember, and it's oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. I can't believe we're having this conversation.
I would like to tell the people out there that when we get to the Vikings portion of this episode, it will be stat based. It will be unbiased, and it will be based on PFF grades.
Okay, well, straight PFF grades. It was very close, and we have some rookies here, so we don't have that. We don't have that data.
What's Quentin Johnston's PFF ranking?
Quentin Johnston is not a starting wide receiver for the group right now. That's a different storyline. That's a different trouble. That's going to be haunting the Chargers.
Who are the three?
Well, in 2 wide receiver sets right now, it's going to be Joshua Palmer.
3.
I don't know if DJ Chark's going to be up there now.
But he's out, so you got to do someone else.
Well, someone else is probably Ladd McConkey.
You got to do 3, man. You got to do 3 wide receivers. Quentin Johnston brings that group down.
Man.
Okay.
What?
You're looking at the numbers. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
I am looking at the PFF numbers. I am looking at the PFF numbers. And in this case, because there's a lot of rookie play going on right now, it's pretty even. And therefore, advantage Chargers.
Okay.
Moving on. Running back group against the Raiders linebackers. Well, here, starting running back that PFF has going on is J.K. Dobbins. The numbers are skewed, Brandon. J.K. Dobbins has been hurt over the past little while, okay? Mm-hmm. Like, he got a 53.5. Hey.
They don't rank him on injury?
No. What's his per rushing average? Like, this is so ridiculous. So, of course. But you look before that's 75.7, 72 before that. He is absolutely a player that's ready to break out as long as he is healthy. We've talked about this before. So, we're now going towards the Raiders linebackers. Divine Diablo. Great name. Good play. So a 60.6. Yes, higher than the J.K. Dobbins score there. They've got Robert Spillane. Listen, like he had a pretty good overall grade, defensive grade of 77.1, run defense 89. So that's where he's going to be really useful against these backs. Now, of course, right now I'm only going with J.K. Dobbins. And he has great pass rush grade there too, which does help stop the run to some degree. Luke Masterson as well. Defensive grade, he is 86.9, so that's pretty fantastic. Run defense 88.7 according to PFF. So, listen, to be fair and to try and be objective in this, I will give the Raiders linebacking group against the Chargers running back group. I'll give the Raiders the advantage there. All right. Next, we go to the Chargers tight end. And we know that the Chargers have a new couple of tight ends in there with Hayden Hurst not having a great year last year. PFF grade of 44.7. Before that, he was a 64.5, and you go back to 2019, his second year, he got to 73.1, which is pretty good there. Listen, it was a down year for Hayden Hurst.
Okay.
The
Harbaugh will bring out the best in him.
Who brought? We have the people who drafted him coming over to the Chargers organization. Joe Ortiz from the Ravens. They know Hayden Hurst, and back when he was with the Ravens, played a lot better than he did in the last few years. Hey, no excuse right now, but he's here for a bounce back season, so it's not the worst. And when you look at the Raiders safety group, you got Trayvon Moehrig, who had a 70.2 defensive grade, coverage only a 68, run defense a little bit better, but he's not covering tight ends like crazy. Good thing he's not going against an elite tight end. And then the free safety Marcus Epps, 65.4 overall defensive grade with a 57.5. So Hayden Hurst against their two safeties. Okay. I'll give the Raiders the advantage again there. And And here we are. We're tied. We're tied. We're tied. Now, this is where things get really interesting for me, is the O-line versus the D-line. Because the Raiders' D-line is fantastic. Mason Crosby, a 92.1, Max Crosby, excuse me, 92.1 PFF grade. You have Christian Wilkins there, only a 71.8. We know that these grades don't mean as much as the actual play. Like Christian Wilkinson is a force to be reckoned with. That's why he signed the contract he did. So those two in their own already makes their defensive line that much scarier. And when we have Joe Alt as a rookie at right tackle there, we have Trey Pipkins sliding into the inside right guard. And then, Rashawn Slater on the left tackle, Zion Johnson. We look at these grades. Slater has 76.6. Okay, better than 3 of the defensive linemen on the Raiders. The rest of them, 57 to 62.8. Not the best. Not the best. You have Joe Alt though coming in, 5th overall pick. I think that's he's gonna have a welcome to the NFL moment. Against definitely. Max Crosby.
That'll be something fun to watch.
It's gonna be huge to watch. You got this towering 6'8" dude against one of the best pass rushers in the league, and as Jim Harbaugh spoke, in the history of this game.
Yeah.
Like that's nuts. Are there any pushes in this? Like we didn't really decide any pushes, but I think because of the experience of the defensive line and the fact that the O-line, with the way the configuration going, they need time to really get to mesh. Yeah. And because of that, I have to give the advantage again to the Raiders, which is really it's crushing me. And it's at the end of the season, I don't think it's going to be this way.
Well, we just watched it with the Ravens, last night. Their O-line had never really played with each other, and it wasn't great. Maybe later down the year,
you have an experienced pass rusher like Chris Jones coming in, wrecking
like
havoc.
Chris Jones, and then like Max Crosby, right? So, it's tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, so here after the offense, Chargers 2-3 in this regard. Raiders have the advantage right now. Then we're gonna go on to we're gonna flip it ultimately. So Chargers on defense, Raiders on offense. So the cornerback group for the Chargers lining against Davante Adams and those Raiders. Well, right there, we already know that that's a huge advantage for Davante specifically. But a 79.1 PFF grade last year for Davante Adams. His receiving grade was not much better at an 80. Still, great numbers. Yep. Don't get me wrong. Great. And we've talked about this, a few weeks ago. Davante Adams has crushed us, Chargers, as a Raider. So that's not good. We have newly acquired Christian Fulton, 46.4 receiving or coverage grade or defensive grade last year. Not good. That's why the Tennessee Titans let him go. But then we have Asante Samuel Jr. on the other side, 73.9. Now, we've seen in the past that Asante has been there with Davante and held his own. I believe it was rookie season when ASJ, he was up and he was physical with Davante the whole time and grabbed his jersey and put him up because Asante is a smaller dude compared to Davante. And but he did not care. He got up in his face and that's the type of player that this defense needs. He's due for a contract extension. Big year for him. Just a side note. So that matchup is nice. Asante has had success against Davante. Then you've got Jacoby Myers, 69.9 grade, who did quite well, and then Trey Tucker. I don't know Trey Tucker. All right, you as Raiders fans, tell me who's Trey Tucker. Tell me. Any Raiders fan listening, tell me in the comments. Right now, Devontae Adams, big name, but I think, listen, defensive coordinator plays a huge role in this, and I'm going to give the advantage to the Chargers because it's only Devontae. And if Devontae can be tamed, we're not going to completely stop his game, but if he can be tamed, I think this group, with Dean Leonard in there having a huge preseason, this group is ready to break out. And when from once they were a weakness, they may be at least league average or above going forward, which is quite exciting.
Yeah,
Chargers linebacker group against the Raiders running back. Okay. I already know where this is going. You got Zamir White. Had a decent end of the season last year because Antonio Pierce wanted to give him an opportunity. Sure. But you've got somewhat of questionable O-line. You've got a journeyman quarterback who's there just to hold off next year's draft pick. I don't think Zamir White's going to do too much against Denzel Perryman, Daiyan Henley out there. Those are the starters according to PFF right now that I'm looking at. We all know Denzel Perryman is a tackling machine. Daiyan Henley, last year rookie season, we've talked about him and his disdain towards the regime and the system that they went through last year, but he has come out and been there and shined in the preseason in training camp. And of course, rookie Junior Colson, another big name from Michigan. Yeah, like our linebackers got not even a challenge in this regard. So the Chargers get the advantage there. Fantastic. Safety group. Oh my goodness. So safety against their tight ends. Their tight end, Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers. Who are their tight ends? You know, only one of the draft targets that fans wanted for this year and last year actually, for that matter. But you're going against Derwin James and Alohi Gilman, who had a great season last year, with Alohi Gilman 86.1 defensive grade as the safety last year. Coverage grade of 89.2. This guy crushed it last year for us. It was great to see because Derwin was in and out of the lineup, but now Derwin's back. Everybody knows his capability, his potential. So I'm not like his score. I'm not even going to mention it because he's much higher. He's a different color code than what he's been given on PFF. All right, all right. And so then you go against Bowers, rookie again. Can't say too much because I made the argument for the rookies on our team earlier. He is supposed to be this generational talent. He could be, but he's also coming off of an injury. So Michael Mayer being more of that blocking tight end last year, maybe he has more of a receiving role this year. Against our safeties, I'm sorry, Raiders. It's not happening. Advantage to the Chargers over here. Now, our D-line against their O-line. Very interesting. Well, our D-line has Khalil Mack, has Joey Bosa, has Bud Dupree, has Tuli Pelotu. Like absolute monsters in there.
Yeah, but what does PFF say? What does PFF say?
Khalil Mack, 91.8 is what PFF says, all right? 91.8. You know, but Joey Bosa, 78.4, injured most of the season. Tuli, 71, flat. Bud Dupree, only 56, but now he doesn't have to be that main edge rusher being accounted on. So he's going to be rested. He's going to be energetic, full of energy, ready to go. So these are just our edge rushers that we're talking about. When we look inside to the inner defensive line against like their right guard here, like their offensive line, Colton Miller on left tackle, 80.2 grade, offensive grade, which is pretty good. Thayer Munford Jr., 74.1 on their right tackle. But then you have 60.4 in the middle with Dylan Parham. You've got the center decent at 74.6 and Andre James. And then, ooh, this is where we take advantage. Their left guard, Cody Whitehair, a 45, according to PFF there. So, I bet you there are going to be some of those packages where Thule is going to be lined up on the center. They're going to be trying to get these four on that line a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Because they can rush the passer to a way better degree than a lot of these other edge rushers out there. And the fact that they're all together on one defense, that's awesome. I'm excited. So advantage goes to the Chargers, not the Raiders. And then here we go. Last, because we have to have the 10th one, and we have to show respect where respect is due for the highest scoring players in the NFL. It's kickers. All right. And I don't even know who the Raiders kicker is, but guess what? Is it Daniel Carlson? It's Daniel Carlson. Yeah,
one of the best kickers in the league.
Nah, he's like subpar. He's subpar to Cameron Dicker, the kicker. So advantage goes to the Chargers. I don't care. That's what's going on here. It's exciting. As you can see here, Chargers get 7 points to 7-3. We're going to win this game. Jim Harbaugh is going to have a welcome back to the NFL moment. I'm going to call it right here. It's not going to be an explosive game. Get everybody's feet wet. We are going with a 24-13 Chargers. You hear it first. Okay, boom.
Okay.
Chargers, Raiders. There we have it.